we will remember them. Will you please repeat lest we forget?
Lest we forget.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Next we have Kipling's recessional. God of our fathers, known of old, Lord of our far-flung battle line, beneath whose awful hand we hold dominion over plain, palm and pine. Let us sing. World War II veteran, Major Jean Bird, pray the Lord's Prayer.
Will you join with me in prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Looking at your order of service, let's all read together the resolution that we have there. On this, the 104th anniversary of the enduring memory of the landing at Gallipoli, this meeting of Queensland citizens expresses its loyalty and devotion to the throne and the person of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and to the Commonwealth. This meeting reaffirms its gratitude and respect for those servicemen and women of this nation and of New Zealand who on that first Anzac Day and throughout the days of World War of 1914 to 18, by their actions, conferred a glory on our nations that will not fade with passing years. We further affirm that those qualities of service and courage so evident in the Anzacs was to be found again in their sons and daughters when called to take up arms in the cause of freedom during the further World War of 1939 to 1945 and in the campaigns within South Korea, Malaysia, Borneo and South Vietnam. This meeting voices its sympathy and understanding to those relatives who lost loved ones in all the conflicts in which the service personnel of this land have been called upon to take part. This meeting would want it to be known that at all times the memory of the fallen will be cherished and honoured. We would especially remember those who, as a consequence of conflict, suffer still in body, mind and spirit, and those who tend and care for them. For all returned service personnel, this country pledges its thanks and gratitude and respect. May we prove worthy of their sacrifice. And we say amen to that. Now, Reverend Christopher Bate, from All Saints Anglican Bevel, is going to come and read Psalm 23. Thank you.
The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. He lets me rest in fields of green grass. He leads me to quiet pools of fresh water. He gives me new strength. He guides me in the right paths, as He has promised. Even if I go through the deepest darkness, I will not be afraid, Lord, for you are with me. Your shepherd's rod and staff protect me. You prepare a banquet for me, where all my enemies can see me. You welcome me as an honoured guest and fill my cup to the brim. I know that your goodness and love will be with me all my life, and your house will be my home as long as I live.
Now it's time for the wreath laying, and as the band plays, I will call those who are laying the wreaths to come forward. Firstly, Patron Keith Pennell, Bundamba Anzac Observance Committee. He's our patron, representing the committee and the Incapacitated Servicemen and Women's Association Ipswich Branch and the Returned Service League of Australia, and accompanied by Major Jean Bird and Eddie Owen, fellow World War II veterans. then Mr. Shane Newman, Federal Member for Blair. And then representing Joanne Miller, the State Member for Bandamba, followed by Lieutenant Colonel Megan Olding, who is the Commanding Officer of the Joint Logistics Units, South Queensland. And then representing the community of Bandamba, Miss Carol Sander. And representing the people of New Zealand, Mr. Reg Tower. And then Sergeant Michael Fitzgerald, representing RWF Base Amberley. Then Ryan Dinsmore from 17 Construction Squadron, 6th Engineer Support Regiment. So great to have so many schools represented here this morning. And then we have Riverview State School, Ipswich Girls Grammar School, and then Sacred Heart Primary School, Val, who have done an excellent job with the crosses already this morning. after Sacred Heart Primary School. If there are any other schools wishing to lay a wreath, please. And then the Queensland Fire Service, Bundamba Station, and also representing Queensland Police Service and Queensland Ambulance. And then Gordon Welland, National Servicemen's Association of Australia, Queensland, Ipswich and West Moreton Branch. Reverend Bate, representing the churches of Bundamba. Then Major Laith Greenaway, the Salvation Army Bundamba Citadel. Then Brendan Johns, the Salvation Army Bundamba Citadel Band. And then Penny Palmer, representing Riverview Gardens Aged Care Complex. Then Ipswich Ulysses Motorcycle Club, please. Then the Rotary Club of Bevel. Then the Rotary Club of Ipswich. Queen's Park Scout Group. Then Joseph Wilson, remembering Lance Corporal Joseph Wilson. Then Sally Northrop, Damien, Kyle and Talisha in memory of Ken Schneider, Max Boardman and Jeff Northrop. And then descendants, family members, those wishing to lay a wreath in memory of someone close. And any other wreaths, members from the community, please. And then the Bundamba Anzac Observance Committee to absent friends. Thank you everyone for taking part in that very solemn, sacred time. On the order of service, abide with me. Let's sing that. Lieutenant Colonel Megan Olding, who is the Commanding Officer, Joint Logistics Unit South Queensland, is going to come and address us. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Good morning, current and ex-serving comrades, ladies, gents, boys and girls. It's my honour to deliver the Anzac Day address here in Bundamba. This morning I'd like to talk about three aspects of Anzac Day. Why do we commemorate Anzac Day on the 25th of April? What the name of the day represents, and the nature of the Anzac legacy. To the date firstly. April 25th is of course the anniversary of the day Australian troops landed in Gallipoli in 1915. However, this event in isolation doesn't seem enough to make this date significant. Gallipoli was not the first time that Australians had been in battle, and it was by no means an outstanding success. Australians had previously fought in the Maori Wars, had deployed to Sudan in 1885, and fought again in the Boer Wars between 1899 and 1902. Gallipoli was not even an Australian battle, for we landed and fought alongside troops from New Zealand, Britain, France, and Newfoundland. So why have we chosen April 25th? What made Gallipoli different for Australia was it was the first major battle we Australians fought as a nation. Soldiers from every state of the new federated Australia volunteered and fought. What seared itself into our national soul was the sheer scale of casualties. Gallipoli lasted 8.5 months. In that time, 7,600 Australians and 2,500 New Zealanders were killed. 24,000 were wounded. Gallipoli was a battle we lost, and people often ask why we celebrate defeat. The answer is we don't. We commemorate it. We never set out to celebrate it. Had we wanted to, we had plenty of other successful opportunities in our military heritage to choose from. After Gallipoli, Australia won many famous battles in France, Flanders, and throughout the Great War, in other areas such as North Africa and the Middle East, the Southwest Pacific, in the air and at the sea. We have fought in many subsequent conflicts in countries such as Korea, Malaya, Borneo, Vietnam, and more recently Afghanistan and Iraq, in which Australians fought and continue to fight with distinction. But to return to my point, April 25th is not about military victory. As a people, we choose a day when loss of war first scarred the conscience of a young nation. The loss was felt across the whole community, and it was a tragedy we can all associate with. In 1917 alone, a further 76,836 Australians became casualties in battles such as Bullecourt, Nazim's, and the 4-month campaign known as the Battle of Passchendaele. For Australia, the First World War remains a costless conflict in terms of death and casualties. From a population of fewer than 5 million, 416,809 men enlisted, of whom more than 60,000 were killed and 156,000 wounded, gassed or taken prisoner. My second point about Anzac concerns the very term Anzac Day. If you think about it, Anzac is not a battle, and Anzac is not a place. Anzac is a collective noun for a group of people. Thus, Anzac Day gives us as a nation the opportunity to pause and think as individuals. Think about those ordinary Australians serving the nation in times when we, as a democracy, have seen our land or interests threatened to such a degree that it has been necessary for us to go to war. We think of those who served and who remain serving, those who joined together to make the formidable fighting and support forces that Australia was and still is extremely proud of. We salute their fellowship and their courage. We think of the families, those who stayed behind. They battle their own problems in tough war times, and we support those who fought and still fight. We salute their endurance and their strength. We think of the prisoners of war and wounded, as well as those who still suffer today. Above all, on Anzac Day, we honour those who died for us, for our nation, Australia, and for peace. But what about the Anzac legacy? The fact that Anzac Day is a day for the people is evident in the way we mark it. It's not a day of military parades and power. It's a day of gatherings of veterans, of reunions, of services, of community involvement, of reflection and honouring our forebears. If we do celebrate anything on Anzac Day, it is the legacy that those who fought as an Anzac gave us, and those who followed them strengthened and enriched. In the face of adversity, the Anzacs demonstrated, beyond any doubt, the necessary military virtues of duty, courage, teamwork, resolution and self-sacrifice. But to these they added a few unique qualities of their own: mateship, trust, a discipline based on earned respect and not assumed worth, initiative, resourcefulness, humour, and what is often forgotten, a respect for courage and capability of friend and foe alike. The excellent and unique reputation surrounding Anzac survives even today in our armed forces. Anzac Day is a great Australian-New Zealand tradition. It is celebrated all over the two nations and wherever Australians are overseas. It is our day, a day to remember with affection the courage of people and the value of friendship, to honour the dead and to acknowledge those who suffer still the effects of war. I personally have spent Anzac Day in nearly every state in Australia, in New Zealand during my officer training, in the Middle East during one of my previous operational deployments, and recently in the United States whilst on exchange. The one thing, regardless of location, that will remain constant is the pride our servicemen and women feel every April. The uniform and medals I wear today are a symbol of the immense sense of responsibility you have trusted me with. Please continue to pass on the Anzac legend to our children and grandchildren. I actually love it when I hear young children cry or be restless during a dawn service. To me, it means their parents feel Anzac Day is important. It's too important to stay at home. These children will ensure the Anzac Day legends live on from one generation to the next. So here we stand today at the crack of dawn. We do it for one reason alone, to honour great men and women and a great tradition. We gather as we shall always gather, to remind ourselves that we value who we are and the freedoms we possess, and to acknowledge the courage and sacrifice